Hi, this is Wishop, and I wanted to do a walkthrough of Doug Thornsjoe's latest deck from Duck Soup, which is the original Arthur Rackham Oracle. So this is the revised and refined second edition. He did this through crowdfunding, but it was a successful enough round that he was able to print up a lot of extras. So I know that if you go to Duck Soup, which might even be ducksouptarot.com, something like that, you'll find it. And you could order it if you were interested. So this edition came in a very sturdy hard box with a really pretty liner. Here's the bottom of the box. And here's the back of the box, which has a little information about Arthur Rackham, the illustrator, who remains one of the world's greatest fantasy illustrators. His work spans 2 centuries and still retains its expressive power. This deep and fanciful pack has its own unique symbology and the rich old world flavor of European fantasy. So it is 80 cards. So that's quite a tall deck. This deck is, also I'm just showing you part of the deck. Because it's a big deck. It's 80 cards. It's trimmed in gilt. This is the card back, which is sort of this kind of pilgrim under the night skies figure, a wayfaring figure, which I think is beautiful. So it is using Arthur Rackham art from 5 different works. And so getting this from the Little White Book, it is from Grimm's Fairy Tales, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Ibsen's Peer Gynt. So the idea is that in the Little White Book, you'll get an image of Arthur Rackham, you'll get an introduction to his life and works, you'll get a little bit of the philosophy and method behind the deck. But it leaves a lot to your guidance, right? So here's the deception and reality spread, which is kind of an interesting idea. A Midsummer Night's Dream spread. So some of these are custom spreads for the deck. But the idea is you don't get meanings. Each one of these oracle cards has a word on it and then a little subheading. So because there are 80 of them and you might not expect them, some of these are unusual, kind of rich or uncommon meanings. I thought I would go through them in alphabetical order so that you could see what the cards are. So the first thing I wanted to mention too is included, there is one of each of a male significator and a female significator. So as I say, there is one of each, but if you would like to use this in sort of a more traditional Lenormand or Kipper card style, one of the systems that has male and female significators, you could use these 2 cards. Or you could leave them shuffled into your deck and see if a significant male or female figure comes up in a reading. So these I'm just sort of putting apart from the rest of the deck. So let's start with the A's. I also intend to put a list of these definitions down below so that you can see all the different words in one place. So this is acrimony, festering resentments. Whoops. Boy, I hope I still know how to read, because for this video it's going to be important. This is adoption or new interests. So hopefully you can see, maybe I should swell up really closely. This is beautiful, beautiful art and very detailed. So this is Afflatus, which you can look up, your divine galling. It's basically sort of an uncomfortable word. Think of it sort of like indigestion. something that royals you. So here we go. Here is Ahriman, the darker self ascendant. So this is sort of an idea of the dark side at work. So this would be a little bit uncommon to be spun into an otherwise somewhat old European deck. Not that there isn't an Indo-European tradition that includes Ahriman, but I'm just saying this is sort of the uncommonness that you find in this deck. So this card is Alliance, Mutual Benefit. So in all of these cards, there is an image, and looking at the image, maybe you will be inspired by the fairy tale that it comes from to see what other meanings you could get out of it. There certainly is a lot of visual stuff to work from. You know, here we have an alliance for mutual benefit. So what does it mean that we're in the home? You know, that we're in somebody's home. You know, you can look at those details as having a lot of meaning depending on the way you're reading. So that given all that background, now we can move probably a little faster. This is Amalgamation or Inner Harmony. This is Anxiety, otherwise known as Inertia, born of doubts. I was going to say dread, but it's doubts. This is Ascension, Nurtured and Nurturing. Beautiful, sort of fairy-like being carrying a child above these treetops. Awakening says, you have but slumbered here while these visions did appear. So this is obviously from Midsummer Night's Dream, and there's an awakening from a sort of dreamy sense, an awakening perhaps to a truth or a revelation. And you can see this really adorable kitty that is on every card. This is Awareness. So again, Midsummer Night's Dream. Here's Puck wearing a donkey's head. But of course you can see this in any way you need to or want to, because you may find a surprising resonance with the situation you're reading about. Awareness, true character revealed. Beginning at the end. So here's an old couple just delighted and joyous to be receiving a new baby. Here's called Coercion or Leaving Behind. So you can see somebody being sort of dragged along, perhaps not by their will. Well, with the word coercion, definitely. Being dragged along on something. This is Compassion, a light in the dark. And you can see that this is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So what does that mean to you? You know, does that add extra layers of meaning? To me, the images and the stories behind it always add extra layers. That's one of the things that attracted me to this deck, and I'm a fan of Rackham illustrations. So here's Complication, Unexpected Development. And here's the fairy and Puck. I hope you're getting a good look at these. Conflict, personal disunity. So here we have this battle scene, personal disunity and conflict. I mean, the artwork is just gorgeous. So it is the kind of stuff you really want to get up close to. This is Connectedness, embraced by the natural world. So I'll move back a little so you can see the whole thing. I mean, it's beautiful. It's this sort of nymph, tree nymph figure. Consequence, which is indiscretion's progeny. So the child of indiscretion is consequences, the consequences of your actions, which I think is great. Coterie, kindred spirits. I'm not shy to say that this deck may send you, as it has sent me a couple times, to the dictionary or to the internet to look up these words to see how they're pronounced and what other phases of meaning they might have. But that is also part of the richness of it. So here's kindred spirits. It's funny, as I look at all these together, I sort of think of Winkin, Blinkin, and Nod, these little sort of fairy beings together. Covetousness, which is an opportunistic impulse. So you want something and you are taking a shot based on opportunity. Courage, defensive but daring. Look at that, it's beautiful. Creative power, sowing the stars. It's gorgeous, these sort of cloud figures. Don't be worried that we're only at C, because most of the, if you've ever done filing before, you know that most of the action is in the early part of the alphabet, like everybody's name is with A, B's, C's, and D's, and then there's another big chunk near the end. But you could almost get half your filing done through the letter D. So we hit most of the cards, or like probably half of them, as we get through this part of the deck. So cultivation. And here's musical instruments and a drum, and it looks like a book and people listening. The word is achieving refinement, if I didn't say that, the subheading, achieving refinement. Curiosity, hidden danger. This is obviously Red Riding Hood and the wolf. Curiosity. Curse is an ill aspect, and this is Puck with his donkey head, feeling cursed. We've got construction going on around here, so you may hear a little bit of that. We'll see. Deception, which is unreliable guidance. Deception, unreliable guidance. Decline is all passion spent. At the end of your rope. Delusion, which is false attraction. So again, we have Puck here, who's been cursed with the donkey head and cursed with love. Destiny, a change in the wind. Devilment, force for mischief. See this little character. Discovery, which is new horizons. And you see these dogs accompanying this person. Disorientation, losing one's way. Disquiet. See all these birds flying off the cliff? A sudden disturbance, like the kind of thing that would frighten birds away. Now, a lot of these concepts seem kind of heavy and kind of deep, and I agree. Or if you think that, I kind of think that too. But I think this would be an excellent deck for working with blockages or shadow work, or trying to reveal the nature of something that you haven't quite put a finger on. You're trying to understand the underlying issues. And so you need to kind of dig deeper into maybe your own motivations or the motivations of others. So I think this could be an excellent deck for that. Ending. Our journey's over and done. And here we have a person at a bedside of a very old person. Enlightenment. Hearing the hidden songs. And look at this joyful scene. This is Exigency, which is unpleasant but necessary. So this looks almost like a haunted house, like you have to go investigate the noise, the thumping strange noise in your house. And you don't want to do it, but you have to do it. Fabulism, the power of imagination. So in this picture, he's making shadow puppets, which seem to sort of terrify the children. But fabulism is also about any kind of invention. So maybe you're making things worse than they are, or maybe you're believing hyped up tales from someone else. That's how I see that one. Fecundity. Another word for that would be fertility, creative power. And this is a figure that Doug Thornsjoe has used as the High Priestess, I believe, in another deck. So she's kind of always got this sorceress quality to me, the Empress quality. Maybe she was the Empress in another deck. It's one of those two, the High Priestess or the Empress. It must be the Empress because it's fertility. Here's first light at the breaking of the storm. And here's a rainbow. So maybe you're working through a process. Forbidden fruit. And the subhead says, mind your own business. And here's somebody with a very long nose. Fortification, arrayed in confidence. Futility, chasing an illusion. Gossip, words to the unwise. Grace, divinely blessed. Guardianship, protecting the vulnerable. Guidance, the hidden path. Guile, which is a false promise or false promises. Guile is related to the idea of being gullible. So this one, the hidden, transpiring beneath the surface. Actually, to me, a lot of this deck has to do with issues like that. What is beneath the surface? What is trustworthy and untrustworthy? What is developing? This one is imprudence, home unguarded. It's a beautiful home, but there's no protection on the door. Influence, stirring up the spirits. And you see almost a Pied Piper-like figure here. Someone exerting influence. Insight, or parting the veil. Seems like a very powerful kind of operatic card to me. Intemperance, lack of self-control. Intemperance can also be impatience or impulsiveness. This one's called intuition, connection to the subconscious. And you can see this one's interesting because it's got this extra medallion above and below, which I'm sure were in the original artwork, and it's interesting that he left them in. It gives this one a slightly different look, slightly different layout, which makes, for me, the intuition card in the Oracle deck a little bit special. Not to mention the beautiful image. Jealousy, which is unleashing inner demons. A lot of these images seem to have almost a thorny quality because they're set in the forest or they're set in dim, dark places. This one's called Machination, unreliable associates. So machination, has to do with scheming. So unreliable associates. Madrugada, which we got the first time I used this deck in a reading, which is the doorway to dream time. It's the darkness before dawn, and it has to do with the time when your dreams are very vivid and potent. Magnetism, charming properties. I suppose exerting magnetism or having it exerted upon you. Navigation, charting your own course. The baby. Obstruction, obstreperous personage. This looks like the little bad-tempered gnome from Snow White and Rose Red. Parasite, a dominating influence. Rapunzel, so maybe the witch is like the parasite. Persecution, casual cruelty. This idea of bullying. Perseverance, hanging on at the edge. Polarity, a charged atmosphere. Providence, anonymous benefactors. Look, it looks like the little brownies doing you a good turn. Provocation, challenge accepted. And here's the tortoise and the hare. So that could have a bunch of meanings that, would be added to what you might think about. So here's our last little stack, and it's much shorter than the other ones. Quackery, professional incompetence. So you can see that's the kind of oracle card that you don't get very often, but it actually comes in handy. There are lots of situations where you might ask, am I dealing with an incompetent person? Am I dealing with someone who is a trustworthy professional? This one says rapport, a trusted confidant. So we have ones that deal with untrustworthy associates and confidants, and ones that also deal with those who are trusted, those who are benefactors, those who are good guides. So here's regrets, the winter of the soul. And then we have renewal, the mercurial soul. That which changes one way can be changed again. So this renewal, this idea of washing clean and being born again. So if regrets is the cold end of an old cycle, this is surely the birth of a new one. reserve, complete unto oneself. So a card of a great independence. Sang-froid. Now I know French speakers say that much more elegantly, but I learned it by reading it, so I always have the wrong pronunciation in my head. Anyway, this is confronting the demons. And sang-froid means basically being cold-blooded, cool as a cucumber. So here we go. I think this one may have come up as well, too. Shadow. Something approaches. It doesn't say if it's good or bad, but something approaches. I love this one. Stability. Sure-footedness. And here's the cat on the rail. Strength, the beast tamed. And you can see a relation between this card and the sort of typical strength tarot card. You might hear my stomach rumbling too. There's all kinds of noise going on here. Subversion, tranquility, disturbed. We're in the S's, so we're getting near the end. Temptation, the beast within. So it looks like Hansel and Gretel and the witch in her cottage. Temptation. Transmutation, elemental alchemy. Being changed from one thing to another, shape-shifting. Undercurrent, unseen forces at work. And last but not least, wonder, the shadow of the past. And we have this Egyptian looking monument. So I'm just going to pile these all together so you can see how thick the deck is when all of the cards are in it, just for your own information. I have about medium-sized hands, not real tiny and not totally large, but it's a sizable deck. So handling it, because it's thick, it's not huge this way, but it's thick. So keep that in mind. But you do get a ton of cards with a ton of options. So I will put the list of all the card names in the description box. Thank you very much for showing up for this walkthrough and for living through it, or sticking with it to the end if you were interested. Information about where to get it will also be in the description box. And until next time, rock on with your bad selves.